Hello, everybody. Very welcome today at the Country Day of Belgium and the World Business Angel Investment Forum during this Angel Week. So we had the big opening yesterday, which was attended by 60,000 people. So that's a huge success. So as you know, this session will be recorded. And I'm very proud to have a top and outstanding panel. And I'm going to present them very shortly, but then I'm giving the floor because it's up to him for each of them to present themselves. So first of all, noblesse oblige, Celine Vaessen, which is from the Federal Participation Society. And Celine, I will ask you later on to explain exactly what this FPIM means, because I think most of the people don't know what FPIM is. Then you have Jan Alexander, who was from the Belgium Venture Capital Association. I said who was. He didn't change, but the name of the company changed. It is now Venture Capital Belgium. And we have Dirk Paelinck, who is not a serial killer, but a serial entrepreneur. And he is the president of the Proptech, European Proptech Association. And at the same time, he is from Workiro, which is a company that's managing. And I would say last but not least, and an adept of the just-in-time philosophy, Reginald Vossen, who is the boss of Band Flanders, and at the same time, the president of the Business Angel Europe, which is next to IBAN, which I founded, as most of you know. It's in fact the European Business Angel Network. I will just briefly introduce and then give the floor to all of you to say what is happening in Europe in venture capital. Well, last year we said, what are the big problems? 3 problems. Exit environment. How to get out if you have an investment. The second problem, fundraising. How to find funding. Third problem, scale up funding. Well, this is in fact a bit obsolete now, because if you have seen the latest study from the European Investment Fund published last week, there's only one problem for the VC sector today. It's uncertainty about the futures. It's geopolitics. So you see, we're living in a different world. And this is, of course, Europe. So I'm going to speak now about Belgium, because that's the topic. But before that, you will see if I say that I have an outstanding panel, you will not be disappointed. So we decided for the Belgium ones not to do the classical one with the PowerPoint presentations, because you have enough of them this week. But we're going to discuss, as everybody knows, what the topic is. So if I may give the floor now to Celine Vaessen. So Celine, who are you? What are you doing in life? And what is this FPIM about?
Yes. My name is Celine Vaessen. I started my career as a research assistant at the Solvay Business Schools of Economics and Management. Then I moved to an investment bank in the middle of the financial crisis to realize that all the models I was teaching to my students get into trouble. So very interesting period. And 15 years ago, I joined the SFPI, which is the Belgian Sovereign Wealth Fund. SFPI in French, Société Fédérale de Participation et d'Investissement. FPIM in Dutch, Federal Participatie Investeringsmaatschappij, which is in fact the equivalent of an investment company, but with a big mandate to anchor strategic investment. So we act like a sovereign wealth fund, but with our own financial means. So we do not depend on money from the government. We reinvest the proceeds of our investment in the new economy and in bigger assets. We also had a big and important role during the financial crisis to stabilize the financial sector. And SFPI now is also handling and managing the biggest stakes of the Belgian state in public companies like the postal companies, the telecom company, and so on. So a very small company, but with a big mandate, I would say.
Can you say something about how big your fund is, Celine?
We manage, depending on the value you put on Belfius, for example, or other stakes, we manage between 12 and 15 billion euro of assets under management.
So 12 to 15 billion euro. That's
Yes.
an amazing fund, which is participation in some strategic things. And defense as well, or not yet?
Yes, it's on the table. We are discussing how to do it in the best interest of the Belgian citizen.
Thank you very much. You see, an outstanding thing. So fantastic. The person who is in fact looking what happens in Belgium is a guy who has a lot of experience, but now he's the boss of the venture capital Belgium. Do I say it? Yeah, Jan Alexander, is that right? The new name, or I'm wrong?
No, you don't. It's Private Capital Belgium, Rudy.
Close. I was close. What's private capital Belgium, Jan Alexander?
Well, good afternoon. So my name is Jan Alexander. Happy to be here. I learned a job at KBC Private Equity, the venture capital and private equity arm of a large Belgian bank, KBC, and then moved on to PMV, which is the regional investment company, public investment company, sister company of SFPI, let's say, where I was responsible for the fund activity. And then almost 3 years ago, indeed, Rudy, I took over as at Private Capital Belgium. We recently rebranded. That's why everybody has to get used to the new name. I understand. So we're the spokesperson for the venture capital and the private equity industry. We're a membership organization. We have now over 230 members. Most of them are investors, and so we work together with our members to organize sharing of best practices, events, education events, and also public affairs is important for our association.
Do you have, Jan, roughly an idea how much investment capacity your 230 members do have?
Well, I can give you two figures. Let's say that since 2007, there has been invested over 25 billion into the Belgian VC and private equity community. And on average, for sure, we had some crazy years, 21, 22, but let's say on average, the industry of private capital, meaning venture capital, growth funds, family offices, private equity combined, on average, one can say that there is 2 billion invested every year in the Belgian economy.
Wow, amazing figures we hear.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Reginald, when you come to it, smaller figures, but it's much more important because you're 60% of the starters coming money getting from you. Isn't that true?
Yeah, it's very much smaller figures, but indeed relevant figures because as manager of Business Angel Network Flanders, which is the oldest business angel network in Belgium, where we are in operations for more than 27 years now, established in 97, and as for separate smaller networks and merged into one bigger organization in 2003. Big means we have about 220 to 250 active paying membership members, which invest in companies on a rate of about 25 to 35 deals per year, mostly by pooling their money in ad hoc syndicates. Over those 27 years, we have been investing in up to 540 deals, roughly. Average ticket size was about 200,000 euro per investment. Average ticket size per angel was about 75 to 80,000 euro, which is, in a European perspective, a big ticket. This is because we have a very much entrepreneurial backed angel network. So most of our angels have been entrepreneur, and literature shows that those mostly invest in bigger tickets, which is a challenge into the future, already giving something about the future, because getting funded as angel network, meaning having angels who want to invest, you have to go down these days. So you were talking about the uncertainties in the market. Well, of course, these have implications on the investment size per ticket from angels. Besides running this angel network, which is mostly aimed at Flanders, but also Belgium, the other regions in Belgium, and also abroad. We also invest in Dutch, German, and even African companies. Besides the angel network, I've also established three co-investment funds for angels through the years. The most recent one is AngelWise, which is a vintage 21 fund of 20 million euro, only 20 million euro, but very important to invest in the bridge, which needs to be served after the angel investment. And as Rudy rightfully said, I'm also president of Business Angels Europe, which is the umbrella organization of the more mature markets on angel investing. These are mostly the Western countries, but of course, we are also tapping into the CEE countries with, for instance, a program which we are running now on the European Scale-Up Investment Launchpad, which is bringing 6 countries closer to us. For instance, last month we were able to establish a business angel network in Croatia, which is a very promising market, by the way. But these are the activities on which I'm filling my days.
And I think on top of that, you're the president of Angelwise.
Yes, the last fund we have established, I'm president there. Why did I exactly choose the role of president and not being on the management or investment side? Because we are bringing companies from the angel network towards that fund as well. And of course, I don't want to be in the decision chain on the projects themselves. This would create some kind of a how should I say, conflict of interest. So that's why I'm on the role of getting the fund or keeping the fund aligned to the angel network activities, which is, I think, very relevant in the perspective of what I've been saying, that we need angels to be followed on by funds. And the creation of the third fund now, the first one was already back in 2007, was indeed because we felt that the VC market itself was not ready yet to invest in angel-funded backed companies in the smaller scale. So this is why we, with this Angelwise fund, also are already investing from a ticket from 100,000 euro upwards. So this is a niche player, but an important one in France.
Wow, great initiative. I would say, last but not least, the man who brought together 3,200 startups in the field of Proptech in one association. Dirk, who are you?
Thank you, Rudy. Yeah, I'm serial entrepreneur in the sense that I have a co-working business. We have a project development company, and also a small technology company. Besides that, yes, I founded the European Proptech Association with all 3,400 now startups and scale-ups active throughout Europe, and it means that they are active in technology for real estate, technology for construction. So technology for construction has become more and more important in the last 2 to 3 years, because before it was like only 12% of the innovation of the innovation investment went into construction technology, which is something that we changed. So what we do with this European-wide association is to work with the different departments of the European Commission, also on legal and also on finance, but also other entities like the European Investment Fund or the EIC, European Innovation Council, the European Institute of Technology, for example, and last but not least, with the European Space Agency, where we have 2 programs running. One is about how to better manage the risks from a satellite point of view, to detect the risks for flooding, but also where to construct, where not to construct. And then the second one is called Space for Robotics, which is like the program where the best of the construction tech companies in Europe can apply to the European Space Agency in order to integrate into their technologies, well, the robotic technologies that have been developed by the European Space Agency. And besides of that, we organize the whole innovation event part of, for example, Expo Real, 45,000 people in 3 days. You spoke there, by the way, last year, Rudy. It's the biggest real estate and construction event in Germany. And now this summer, for the first time, I'm organizing the same thing, but then for Love Tomorrow Summit of Tomorrowland, which is first time, but it's incredible. Without doing anything, we sold 12,000 tickets. I have arranged quite some speakers. I'm about 150 startups that are coming there, and it's on the 23rd and the 24th of July, so between the 2 weekends of Tomorrowland, but it's on the grounds of Tomorrowland, and that is so nice. And so the first day is the B2B day, and the second day is the B2B2C day, because the second day, on a Thursday, all the 12,000 people can come and look at all the startups that are present there, and I can speak to them. And the goal that we have with Tomorrowland is to reach at least 100,000 visitors in the next 5 years.
So there's still some tickets available?
You have to be a startup, or you have to be a big name in the construction or real estate industry. So it's very limited, because on a Friday, it's including the ticket for Tomorrowland, the first day of the festival. So the ones who have the money, they can dance on Friday too.
Okay, this is the
And
first
last but
message.
not least, it might be good to mention, Rudy, because you will not mention it yourself, but you and I, we are also in what is called SEED, Sustainable Innovation and Innovation Durable, where we accompany 34 startup scale-ups right now in their funding process. Well, thank you.
Yes, and for the last thing, if you're interested in seed, you need to be an impact investment fund or an impact investor. More than welcome. So you see, I think I don't have to convince you. This is an outstanding panel. Again, we're going to do it in an informal way because you're all top level. So if you take the floor, just take it. We're only 5. So sorry for the people you cannot ask questions because it's the principle of World Business Angel format. But I want to start with a question to all of you, and you can say we take it. Yesterday, Baibars Altunas, the president of the World Business Angel Investment Forum, he announced a new initiative, namely setting up a World Chamber of Entrepreneurship. That's going to be launched next week. Entrepreneurship, is that still an issue in Belgium, or do we have enough entrepreneurs? We speak about financing later, but entrepreneurship, do you have an idea? In all your contacts you have, do we still have the demand side of financing?
I
Celine,
do.
you want to add? Okay, Celine, take the floor.
Yeah, we have a lot of demands, and it's not related to the financial instability. I think it has been quite stable. The level of the demand. I'm working for FPIM since 15 years now, and what is evolving is the sectors where we see entrepreneurs. It has been in fintech, and then climate tech, and now in defense and dual use technologies. But I would say that the level of entrepreneurship has not changed. The focus of entrepreneurs can change, but the level of the demand for financing hasn't changed over the last 15 years. The difficulties they face are changing, especially in terms of financing, but I understand that we will appreciate that later. But I still see the same drive, and I can also speak about my experience with my students because I'm still teaching for 20 years now. I even see an increase in the number of students who are motivated to start a new business instead of just applying to a big banks. And I have nothing against big banks, but I see that it's evolving in the mindset of my students. I see more and more students trying to launch new initiatives, new ideas, even building some business plans. We were not like this 20 years ago. I would say when I was a student, there was nearly no one in my auditorium with the idea to launch a new business. There were some, but not so much as today.
So you see a positive change in the mindset. Do all the other people of the panel agree with that?
I must say this morning when I was reading the Tate, which is the financial newspaper, there was an opinion about having more entrepreneurship again. And I felt a little bit awkward. I thought, is this misplaced? Because this could have been a piece of like 5 or 6 or 7 years or 10 years ago. So I think the feeling with us all is that, okay, entrepreneurship is really hot. It's a nice career option, and it becomes more and more a career option for a lot of young people. Of course, there's always the fact that a lot of them are called, but not so many are chosen. So I think having the right people getting to entrepreneurship, meaning also helping them, because entrepreneurship, I guess, in some way, of course, you need some stamina to take the risk, but you can also learn a lot while doing and while being guided towards entrepreneurship. And I think, at least in Flanders, we need to take care that we don't lose the guidance of starters too much. There's a lot of focus going towards scale-ups because this is bigger growth and more easy for a government, for instance, to say, okay, we've invested there, and after 3 years there is this company. But we have lost a bit the contact with the real starters and also pre-starters, giving them the opportunity to come forward with their plans, ambitions, Going from dream to reality, I think we should help people there. Because, for instance, at Ban Flanders, we see about 600 companies who approach us each year. Only 120, and that's even a big number, but only 120 are fit to go towards angels. So there's a lot of people with plans, ideas, perhaps not already plans, but getting them in the right position and getting them with a nice team in order to be able not to run a one-man show, but to be a sustainable venture is still a challenge.
Thank you.
Well, I would like to add there, Rudy, is as Celine is saying, a lot of entrepreneurship, definitely, but also serial entrepreneurship. That's a nice thing to see, that people who have launched a business and were successful start again, or you see spin-outs of existing companies, like Argenics in life sciences, or Showpad, or Netlock spin-outs in more in tech. Odoo is also a very nice company. There, the spin-out phenomenon still has to start, but I'm really sure that it will happen. And we see, I mean, as a country, we're really strong in B2B software. Dirk mentioned it already, B2B software, and also life sciences. And it's nice to see that people who created ventures, who were successful in the past, start again. So that's a good sign that this is still a really nice environment to invest in. Not only a nice country to live in, Belgium, but also to invest. And there's a lot of talent. So entrepreneurship is thriving.
Great. Before I move to the serial entrepreneur, is Reginald speak about Flanders? So for those who are not familiar with Belgium, Belgium is a country that is based on 3 regions. So we have Flanders, we have Wallonie, and we have Brussels. These are the 3 regions. If we speak about the whole of Belgium, we speak about the federal level. Like Celine, she has a federal institute. Reginald is Ban Flanders, so it's from Flemish. And I think, Jan Alexander, your institution, which is private capital Belgium, it's called about Belgium, so it's about Belgium. And I think, Dirk, you're international, but you're Belgium as well as a serial
Yes, of course. No, absolutely. And what we see in the last, let's say, 5 years is that you got a lot of entrepreneurs with excellent ideas, but they have difficulties to articulate it. And then you have a lot of technology in there that requires quite some investment before you even get started. And what I see then is that they are looking for people who can help them. And it's difficult, by the way, to find people to help them. And a good example is, I think, but then I talk for Belgium, for my sector, is that together with Procter & Gamble, we got a project funded by the European Commission of 2 million euros. And we have built now a sustainable living lab in Grimbergen, just outside of Brussels, where all new technologies, even engineers with an idea on paper, they can go there and they can even prototype devices in 10 days, right? So you immediately see the effect on the entrepreneur, because he would have done probably like 3 months to get somewhere, and there you can do it in 10 days. And after that, once it's proven, we give them also the possibility to demonstrate this to, well, business angels, investors, but also to potential clients afterwards. And of course, we put them then in what is called Tomorrow, Living Tomorrow, which is like a huge building, and every building has a floor that is like a hospital. The one is an apartment, the other one is an office environment. So these technologies, they go then there when they are mature, and we're putting them in what we call a demonstrator. So I think that these initiatives, and I see it, they're really important in the future, because we're moving towards founders that are in need of deep tech. And it's not that easy to find the right people to help them scale.
But is there not something pervert? We were pushing entrepreneurship since 15 years. Go for it, guys. And at the same time, we see that the money last year went down by 30%. So we say, go for it. But then at the same time, we see that the VCs are not there. Good that we have some business angels to start. But in fact, the problem is still people are looking for money. And if I look to the markets are liquid. We are swimming in the money, pension funds, private people are having all this money. But we see that the VCs, in fact, are not really doing their job. And I think that's the fault of Jan now.
Yeah, we experience that. We experience that too, because for state aid reasons, we need to invest with private investors. So we always invest pari passu with a co-investor that is
So
purely
pari passu
private.
means 50-50, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we can feel the market thanks to
Yes.
that rule. And we struggle to find private investors in some sectors, especially for very long-term investment. Where you need patient capital, and that's the case in a lot of sectors, especially one that would be the driver of the future growth in Belgium. So new technologies, but also life sciences. Life sciences, it's a very long-term investment horizon. And patient capital is more and more difficult to find. Also in public investors, because of the geopolitical changes, the dynamics that are changing every week and sometimes every day in the US. So I think it's more and more important that investment vehicle and big financial institutions keep focus on their initial investment strategies, while taking into account new needs, like in defense, for example, but be as stable as possible. Also for private investors and smaller retail investors, because if you move every 6 months in terms of investment strategy, then you lose the market. And we face that, I think, at the public level, but also at the private level. A more public challenge is the tax regime stability. If we change the rules, we will also lose a lot of investors. And we have some specific tax regime in Belgium, especially in private equity. If we change that, we need to explain when it will start, how it will start, and how long it will last. Because if we change that every 6 months, then I understand, I appreciate why private investors are not ready anymore to take long-term investment horizons.
I think that's a clear message.
I
think, Jan, you're the best lobbyist in the world.
Didn't know that.
I don't know. I won't be the judge about that. But adding to your previous question and what Celine has been saying, indeed, Rudy, there is dry powder. But as Celine explains, and you also said it in your introduction, Rudy, geopolitics uncertainty is there. Uncertainty at the European and definitely at the world level now with what is happening every day. Investors don't like that. Combining that, indeed, and for the audience in Belgium, we have a new government, and the new government is working on a couple of new tax regulations. The industry is there really asking for clarity and quick measures, clear measures, not too complex, that we can work with, and that we, if necessary, we can adapt ourselves to that. But we need clarity, and that's definitely sure. To give some more context, I think we come from very, very swift years in fundraising with low interest rates. That climate has changed. So before the whole geopolitical turmoil, fundraising started to be already more difficult. It is even more difficult today, and more in venture capital than in private equity, especially for first-time initiatives. That's definitely the case. On the other hand, to put it in some perspective, one could, say that the years up to 22 were a bit too easy, and so what is happening right now could trigger some kind of selection whereby those GPs and also those VC investors or angel investors who do well, who performed well, will be rewarded and will continue to have a good fundraising. That will definitely happen. But I expect also some teams, falling out of the race or some consolidation in the investor community. And on the other hand, also important for the audience is important to mention that Belgium counts a lot of high net worth individuals, a lot of family offices. They are very strong, and they continue to invest and look for new opportunities.
Can I make the link what Celine was saying? She was saying it's very hard to find patient capital on the long term, huh? Like say 10, 15 years, I suppose that's what you mean, more or less by the long term. Do you have a solution on that, Jan? Because of course, most of your members, they're linked with the carried interest, the startup, the dismantle 10 years later. So how can you cope with this term element? Especially now, if you speak about impact investments, you don't realize them in 5 years, you need 10 years. Do you find a solution on that?
I mean, I mentioned family offices. They don't have these limits. They can go for the longer term. We also have holding companies. And then within the traditional funds, and I shouldn't forget the sovereign wealth funds like SFPI, who also are not constrained by closed-end regulations. But even within the traditional funds, we see more and more funds going for a longer term than 10 years, Rudy, or going for an evergreen approach. There's also continuation funds or solutions in the market whereby people or GPs are looking for a longer investment horizon and also allowing for patient capital. Only yesterday, I think it was this morning all over the press, Itineraries is a nice case. I think investors, and I think you see the lucky face of Celine, there was an investment consortium, I think, Celine, that was there for 15 years. So it's a nice example that the VC investor can be patient if you work with an interesting management and can go for a longer term horizon.
Why were you smiling, Celine?
Sorry?
Why were you smiling?
Because we are one of the happy investors.
Yeah. So what was your return? What was the return?
Directly on our balance sheet, but also indirectly because we invested in different impact funds, which choose 10 years ago to invest in Itineraries too. So we are a double happy investor.
So can you say something about your multiple?
About
the multiple you realized?
We directly it's more than twice, but we invested 3 years ago, I think. So it's a short-term investment for us, but a very long-term one for the funds that we supported before. And that's how we try to tackle this topic that you mentioned, Jan Alexander. That's the fact that we first invest in some funds, but usually closed-end funds. And then when they arrive at the end of the investment period, at the end of the term of the fund, then we invest directly to help the company to continue to grow. So we are usually directly and indirectly exposed for that long-term perspective.
Reginald, the fact that venture capitalists are a bit waiting, this is a problem for you because you're really at the beginning of the whole parcours of the company.
That's right. We need to hand over the baton at a certain point, but also I have to be honest, also last year was a dippy year for the business angels as well. And I want to add one extra element in the analysis is that most of our angels, but also our smaller funds, we needed post-COVID to reinvest. Not only exits were delayed, but we also needed to invest in follow-up rounds, which blocked the money for going into new projects. So I think this is also a little bit of an explanatory part of what's happened last year. And I must say, sun is behind the cloudy sky because this year already, and we are only June, we have already done more deals than we did in last year at bond funds level. So I think the unclarity which was there besides of the geopolitical and energy crisis, etc., in Belgium, indeed, had the introduction which was supposed to take place, but will most probably take place, of a capital gains tax, which was not the case for the non-Belgian audience, which was not the case until yet, created some kind of a this was a sacred house in Belgium, and it has been touched, but there was no clarity about what finally will be the decision up until yet, because they are fighting every day in the government, as I can read. So now people know, okay, there will be a capital gains tax, and it will be about 10%, etc., etc. So, okay, now you found some kind of a way to live with it and go forward. So the uncertainty is killing everything. The certainty, even if it's a bad certainty, is already enough to start reinvesting again. So we are very positive for this year. But indeed, last year was one of the more difficult years, and we are touching now really on one of the big points, and perhaps also the initiative which BAIF has been proclaiming could help, that we need secondary markets as well for the funds as for angels. I think this is a big need, and I don't know exactly at which level to organize them. For sure, Flanders is too small. I think even Belgium will be short. This should be created at the European level, because otherwise this secondary market will be the place where all the bad accidents will arrive, and not be the place where you can find good deals. And I think taking local deals on a European level and moving them forward internationally and even worldwide, that's the right way to organize a secondary market, but there's surely a need for that one.
But we've seen all attempts to set up a secondary market has been killed by lack of liquidity.
Yeah, indeed.
Dirk, as an entrepreneur, I know you're an investor as well, but as an entrepreneur, how do you look at this debate? Do you say these guys know what's happening in the world? Do you say, no, they're really strange in their ivory towers?
No, not at all. Absolutely not. And we can also both testify about the brilliant startups that we are accompanying, Rudy. But in terms of VC, and I look at now Belgium and Europe, don't forget that pre-COVID, there were a lot of companies overvalued, because quite some VC funds have been paying way too much money or investing at a valuation that was way too high. And that has been driving up, it's creating a small bubble, as I want to call it, where at a certain moment, post-COVID, you had to rectify what was in your portfolio and clean up also your portfolio. You saw that after COVID, a lot of the VCs were asking not red figures anymore, but black figures, and straight away, please, which was for a lot of them, of those startups, not doable, right? Right now, when we look at everything that is exit possibilities for companies being bought by their clients, or I think that there's still a huge issue for the VCs to do that. IPOs, you know that also the market is not that great for this, and this is having an effect also on the second round, the follow-up rounds of the startups that they need. And I see a lot of companies, scale-ups, that have trouble financing the funding of their follow-up or their next round. Once that you get to the 10 million, the 15 million, we have two of these also already in our batch. It becomes difficult. By the way, there's also and I'm talking now I'm talking about my sector, which for Proptech and Contech, there are a few VC funds that just stopped them just 2 weeks ago.
And they pay back then?
Yep.
Just liquidate,
they just stopped.
Yes. But you see, coming back to the point of fundraising for the funds, you know that Europe is now playing with the idea of the investment union, saving and investment union, starting from the principle, well, it's strange, those funds are looking for money, and then we see that a lot of people are saving, and everywhere in the world you see that the Chinese savings have never been so high. If you look to a country like Belgium, the money with the saved is bigger than the GDP. The money which is laying at pension funds is not invested in the VC. If you look in Europe, it's 0.018% of the pension funds that goes to the VC world. So you see, the money is there. And there, in fact, what Europe tries to do with the saving investment union is try to find ways to mobilize it. Do you think, and perhaps I'm looking first to Jan, do you think that there are ways to mobilize the private money which is on the bank accounts from the Belgians, the 350 billion? Can we mobilize some of them towards your clients? And how should we do it? And of course, the question is for the
I
other
think
two.
it's really important, and it is happening. Yeah, and I also spoke to Commissioner Albuquerque about her ideas. I think there's a lot of well, it's a couple of things. You mentioned pension funds. That for sure is already would be a very good if your figure would be, I don't know, not
1%.
tripled but 10 times it, then we move the needle definitely, because in the end it's money of the people, and as we all know, public pensions are what they are. So it would be a good idea that as a retirement plan, people invest in VC and private equity more, definitely. And I see, especially in fund of funds, it's also happening in funds. I think Reginald can add to that, but in fund of fund, you see lower thresholds, lower bars to enter into a fund of fund. As of, it used to be 250K, 250,000 euro as a minimum ticket. Now you see initiatives where it's 100,000 euro. So the bar is lowered. GPs are more and more open to it, because before they didn't want to have the administrative burden of a lot of investors, but now you can pool those investors. So there's solutions to that. And I think if you explain, and that's the condition for me, if you explain well to people what they're doing, what is illiquidity versus liquidity, what risks are you taking in venture or in private equity? If you explain that well, if you're transparent about that, time horizon and so forth, then it's a very good idea to do that and to promote it more. And it is happening. It is happening, I think, slowly but steadily.
Reginald?
Yes, I fully agree. Yeah, I think this trend of lowering the barriers is there. For instance, in AngelWise, you can already participate at 50,000 euro, and we are even going lower. As I said in my introduction, that we need to accommodate to the market. The brand newest way of investing, which we are about to launch next week to our audience, to our angels, is the SPV. It's a partnership, maatschap in Flemish, in which we ask people to invest 20,000 euro, from 20,000 up to 50, and then it's finished. So no bigger deals, bigger tickets. With 20,000 euro, we will be investing in 70 to 20 companies in the next 2 years with this partnership. So this is really trying to get people to have their first investment. We have specific target groups. We are aiming at younger angels. We are aiming at more female angels. And I even see new initiatives going for co-investment funds to co-invest with angels. So even reaching beyond the angel networks, creating funds to co-invest with angels. So spreading the word, spreading the practice is really also already in our stage very important.
Everybody can invest. It's open to everybody.
Yes. For the SPV structure, no, because you have full access to our deal flow and have co-investment rights. But this alternative fund I've heard about is from our colleague Network B Angels, which I think will be launched within the next months. Looking forward to follow on that one as well.
Thank you. Celine?
Yes, I think that this saving and investing initiative, the union initiative is a very good one, especially for retail investors, but also for pension funds. I'm sitting in a board of directors of one pension fund, and I already see how the market is moving to a more direct investment, not only just giving a mandate to an asset manager investing in listed equity or bonds. We invest directly in Belgian initiatives. That remains very time-consuming and tough, honestly. But I think that's the role of pension funds with these very long-term investment horizons. Of course, under the control of the regulators, FSMA for Belgium and the National Bank of Belgium, who have to protect pension funds beneficiaries, but more private capital is needed. So pension funds is a driver, according to me. What is lacking, especially on the retail side, is the financial literacy, and it remains uneven, according to me, especially among younger people and lower income groups, where people are not used to concepts, valuation, and just financial models, and they're just lost when they have to make a financial decision. So financial literacy, which is my second job as a professor of finance, is key, according to me, and it should be offered to young people even if they do not study finance, I think.
Yeah.
Because if you just stick to 1% of the population, then it will be the people who take investment decision for the other ones, but the other ones should also get some training on that and some literacy. So that's a big driver. And I read a little bit before this panel about this saving and investment union, and I know it's part of the job.
It was the first phase, in fact, and
yes, and I was positively surprised. I think it comes from there, because when we mention, for example, the 90-10 rule that exists in France, the fact that pension funds have the obligation to offer that 10% could go in very long-term impactful investment, the reaction of pension funds in Belgium is, yes, but people don't get what it is, so it's too dangerous because they don't know. And it's a good reason, but we can, there are solutions to that problem. And I think we should tackle it.
Don't you think that the whole issue about financial and digital illiteracy leads to
Also,
a dual society?
Yes, yes. Also very hot topic. We, as you probably all know, we are the biggest shareholders of Proximus, and we
Proximus is a telecom society of Belgium.
Proximus is the biggest telecom company in Belgium, investing a lot in the fiber technology, which is the main source of digital literacy, according to me, just to give access to people to fiber and to a good network, which is not the case in some areas. And these areas are more specifically the lower income groups area. So it's a problem that has many links. So digital literacy is also a key driver.
When you speak about digital, Dirk, you speak about your business, because Proptech, it's combining technology and the for old sector of buildings, no, which is one of the biggest and the most polluting sectors.
Yeah, 42% of greenhouse gas emissions comes from buildings and construction.
42.
Yes, indeed. And it's really strange, and it's a number that is valid for Belgium and for Europe, is that while we are at 42%, when you look at the percentage of investment going into innovation, only about 7% goes into construction technology and property technology. Whereas in mobility, where you have 16% responsible for greenhouse gas emissions, the amount of money in percentage-wise in innovation is 61%. So for the most polluting sector, you give 7%, 42% versus 7%, right? And for the mobility, you get 16% greenhouse gas emissions, but they get 61% of the money. So there's something really, really wrong in what we are doing. And this is Europe. But coming back to your question, yes, of course, real estate is the last sector to be disrupted, and the disruption has only started. It's like a revolution that is at 1%. And that's because of the digitization. Now, a building, of course, is very difficult to put it in a process of digitization. That's why Proptech came along. What we need is data. We have so many data on mobility, and we have no data on our buildings and how we consume them, how we manage them. We just don't know it. So how can you, in the future, and that's now for Celine, how can you make a solid valuation of a building that you want to invest in if you don't have all the data on the building, right? We have two programs running right now where we are mapping or creating data spaces. It's in Holland, data space for a whole neighborhood where we want to understand from all the characteristics of every building in that neighborhood. And at the same time, everything that is consumed in those buildings. And only then you can really prove the return on investment for an investor who wants to invest in a technology, because that's a huge problem in VC, by the way, is that, or for the clients of the startup, is like, how do you prove the return on investment? In our sector, it's extremely difficult to do that. Second thing about digitization, Rudy, is that there's digital and then there's everything that is truly deep tech and AI. Right, and if we talk about AI in terms of generative AI, it's not going to help us that lot. What's going to help us is the deep tech, right? And what we see being advertised as solutions with AI or based on AI, in more than 90% of the cases, the true AI is very, very low. I had a brilliant conversation.
Will AI not help you in valuation the buildings?
Sorry?
Will AI not help you in putting a value on buildings?
Yes, absolutely, certainly. But you need the data first. And that's not all. You need really, if you want to invent new materials, right? The winner of our competition is the biggest competition in Europe last year, Pebble. They used really AI to develop a new raw material that is CO2 absorbing. It's a construction material, right? This is something where you say, wow, incredible. And the EIC also invested in, by the way. So we will have as investors and VCs, we need to look at, do we have the right people in our teams to judge, to evaluate the companies that we would like to invest in. So what I see in the future, but again, Jan, Reginald, correct me if you want to, I think that the VC teams will have to integrate into their teams quite some deep tech specialists in order to be able to evaluate. And I think this is a very big, challenge.
AI in the decision-making process of VC and business angels. What do you think about that? Is it a tool? Is it an instrument? Is it used already? Or are you lagging behind?
I think it's really happening really fast. For starters, Rudy, in analysis. So the job of VC analyst is under pressure, I think.
So due diligence will be AI driven.
Yeah, what AI can do already in scraping data rooms, in gathering information, in writing investment memos, in even, it depends a little bit on how far you want to go. You have already funds giving the AI agent a place in the investment committee.
Yeah.
For sure, the human touch and evaluating ambition levels or cohesion levels within teams, that's not solved. And it's probably a good thing that we still need humans. But in the analysis phases, there's a lot of efficiency gains happening. And you see it already in the VC funds, VC teams. They hire less junior analysts because AI is doing the job. And that's definitely a big trend. And that has only just started.
AI and business angels, Reginald?
Well, less existing, but on the verge. A lot of the software platforms we use as angel networks are now looking into this. But there is some kind of reluctancy with the angels themselves. They say, look, first of all, I invest in a team, and I need to see the guy or the girl who will be running the show, etc. I guess this is a little bit less easy to put in a reliable AI model to see if one is apt for the job or the task he or she will be asked to do. So I think AI will help certainly the networks in going through the deal flow and selecting the right projects content-wise, but I still do believe, and I'm speaking now on behalf of the angels, that assessing the entrepreneur or the entrepreneurial team is still a task to be done by humans for the moment, and AI is not providing the right tools to do this correctly for the moment, but it will certainly be there somewhere down the road. But for the moment, it's about a little bit of mixed feelings.
Celine?
Yeah, I'm fully aligned with Reginald. We can, of course, start a due diligence, identify the new trends, the new technologies, make a competition analysis, but when we invest in a company, we invest in the entrepreneur and the management team. When we invest in a fund, we invest also in the management team of the fund. That's what we pay, the management fees. And there are some specific criteria that AI cannot identify. Sometimes it's just a feeling. Sometimes you meet someone and you ask questions, and then 2 weeks after you raise the same questions and you have a different answer. AI can identify that, but I'm not sure that AI will translate that into a signal that is dangerous. AI could just make a summary of the feedback. What we will do is to have some lights about this person is not consistent, for example. So, and that's something very, very important to us, especially because we have public investors, so we face a very huge reputation risk. There are also some co-investors we don't want to be associated with. Some countries we cannot invest with. Some tax paradise we cannot invest in. So those are criteria that AI could take into account, but probably not with the same perspective as we in front of our board of directors to defend the investment opportunity. So there's a limit to AI, according to me. What we can do, and I do it myself, is when we have to identify new trends, for example, in digitalization or ecological transition, the new technologies, and then we can use AI, and it's very efficient. And I'm not surprised by the statement of Jan Alexander. A junior analyst then is less useful because you can replace that more easily.
Mm-hmm. And I think, Celine, the good thing for you as an investor in funds will be that you will pay less fees because teams at VC funds will get smaller. But I hear some reluctance in your answer and also in Reginald's position. I think we don't have to forget that we as humans, we have our own biases as well. Eh?
Right.
So combining the two, I mean, letting you be assisted, and I agree, assisted. We should have the final word, but there are limits to our brains, and these systems are so strong, so powerful, and they can help us taking good decisions.
Jan, I would
Agree.
like to start from the bias you're mentioning. One of the big biases of venture capital is female-led companies. Today, only 2% of the venture capital goes to female-led companies. Most of the business angels, I know, Reginald, you're doing quite efforts, but still most of the business angels are men. So why do we don't like women? Why we have a still male-dominated world? And I will ask all of you to give your opinion, and Celine, you can react at the end.
I think for me, it's a big concern. Since I took over, I started with PwC make a study specifically about this topic because indeed it's not good. I think if you look at and VC is doing better than PE even, but still it's not okay. I think if you look at teams of VC investors, there's between 20 and 25% female professionals. If you look at partner level, it's far worse. I think it's below 10%.
Yeah.
So we're trying as an association to work around that. I think there's a couple of things to that. There's no easy answer for sure.
Yeah.
If to give some examples, we we had round tables around HR approaches, how to interview people, how to motivate people, how to evaluate people, work around retention plans. That's a thing. What I try to do, and today we're doing a kind of a good job, Rudy, not a good job. If you look at panels or like at this forum, this is only Celine. That's in fact not good enough. So if I have an event or a panel, I always try to avoid a manel, only man in the panels. It's something. It's for sure. It's not the answer, but yeah, it's important because we lose talent as an industry, talent that works in other sectors, and yeah, it's both inflow that is too low and retention is also really important.
Reginald?
Well, looking at the both sides of the equation on my side, so on business angel side first, and then on the entrepreneur side. On business angel side, we are working very hard. We have a wise women club in which we bring female potential angels, even if they don't consider angel investing. Entrepreneurs, etc., are there as well, in order to try to break through the glass ceilings which female angels have. First of all, you have to be successful somehow in your professional career. Then you have to enter that professionalism to get the money to be investing. Then you once again have to invest time in investing, in looking to deal flows and following on companies, etc., which is somehow there are a few ceilings too much there. So we are trying to break that down. What we also see, and there's UK study on this, on average, there's like 4 to 5% of the angels are female. But if you look into invested in angels, and you go towards them who have invested in more than 8 companies, you will see that this has dropped to 1.8%, because, and there's a reason for that, female angels tend to be much closer to their entrepreneurs that they invested in. So this takes time, which means there's less time for new investments, etc., So it's not that only men don't like female investors, but female investors tend to have their way of working, which is perhaps not creating the multi-investor facet which we like to see in angel investing, because
it's smarter money, we can say.
Yeah, it is. It is certainly is. They also make higher returns than male investors, by the way, and also their choice in which they invest. And then we come also to the female entrepreneurs. Women back women, often, not alone, but often they do. And what we see in women business plans, we see less hockey sticks. Men entrepreneurs always say, the sky is the limit, I will go rocket high, etc. And this is an interesting proposal to an investor, because the IRR is, or the multiple is like, female entrepreneurs tend to be more realistic, which shows to investors perhaps less ambition, which creates that they get less invested in. So there is work to do, and I think the best way to do so, and that's why we choose in our network to bring angel investors together with male investors. We don't believe in female-only networks, because then you don't have the best of both worlds. You need to combine best of both worlds and bring money together, pool money also with female investors, in order to get from the first investment up to that 8th investment. So work to be done by networks, because, and that's exactly why we need business angel networks, because standalone angels will never do this exercise.
Now, without what that Reginald is saying, Armin Schweinbacher made a study, and if you compare the business plans that has been introduced at the moment you're looking for money, and the ones you realized later on, well, for women, they're close to one to another, and for men are always saying, we're going to have a turnover of 10 billion, and then, of course, it's something less in reality. Now, the building sector is really a male-built sector, so there you're very badly placed, Dirk, to give a decent answer to that question.
Well, yes, if you talk about the people in the boards of the big construction companies and the real estate funds, not if you talk about the startups. When you look at, and these are the numbers of our 2024 competition, where we had 39% female founders, 39, and it was like, I think 6-7 years ago, it was probably like 10%. So you see a lot of female activity and founders coming up. It's less the case in Belgium. I see it much more in the Nordics and in Germany, right? I don't know how it comes because I did not have the time yet to look at that.
And do you have an explanation for that, Dirk? Why the sector is so attractive? Because that's a nice
Yeah.
figure, 39%.
Yeah, it's a really,
Based as well.
of course, I must say, it's about our so there's a big competition that we do. So then we take like the top 300, and then we look at, okay, where are the founders? Who are the founders? And that's where last year I was very surprised to see it was 39% founders, female.
So it's
founders.
European
Yes.
Proptech
Why?
award competition.
To answer you, Jan, I'm talking about European level now. Yes, Rudy.
Yes, so
But
it's European award, European Proptech award competition.
yes, correct.
With the commission, you do that.
We do 4 competitions. We do the competition for Exporeal. Now we do the Tomorrowland competition. We do the Proptech Startup Awards with the startup department of the European Commission. So that's really a good overview.
Where can you find information about those competitions? It's on the website?
Yeah, of the European Proptech Association.
Okay, yeah, go on.
And so that's really a big turnaround. But Jan, I'm very sorry, I cannot tell you how it comes. I can only tell you that geographically, it's really like all the Nordics and then Germany, where you have a lot of female founders. I suppose maybe Celine, you can answer that one, because maybe there are, structures that are good in place in those Nordic countries or those German countries where are special programs that I'm not aware of, by the way.
Celine, you know the answer, I hope.
Yeah, I have so many answers for. Perhaps on this last point, I think it's a matter of education. I see in a business school where I'm teaching, there are 50% women, 50% men. And when I look at the career choices, it starts there. They are for the same degree, the same grades, the same brains. Women choose less risky careers and less entrepreneurship, honestly. And I think it starts when they are children. There are very interesting studies, especially in the Nordics, identifying the message teacher pupils sent to their pupils. So when they are very young, the way they put boys at risk, women less, and the way they train them to take risk, it starts when they are children. So I think we should try to work on this in education. So it's a matter of education in your childhood, according to me. I have 2 little girls, so I'm very, very cautious about that, but I see how the school plays a role on that. So it's not very clear, but I see the consequences. Regarding your point, Jan Alexander, I agree. It's not enough to ask a compulsory presence of women in panels, but that's a good starting point. That's the same with quotas. I'm not a fan of quotas, but I think that if we don't do that, we'll never make it happen, because people will continue to be reluctant to try to have more diversity in their boards, because it's more comfortable to work with people looking like you. So if we do not force them, it will never change. And
that's why I gave the example of panels, because if you feel somewhere at ease, it's always easier to stay and to make your way. And if you look at a podium and a panel, and you only see men. By the way, we shouldn't only talk about men and women. It's about diversity. It's for me, the whole thing is, if you take decisions as a team, diverse views, diverse approaches, that's enriching, and then you come to a better way of working.
But you're right, diversity is a big concept. For instance, one figure I can quote: if you look to the venture capital in Europe, I don't have the figures of Belgium. In fact, 0.5% goes to Black-led companies.
Yeah.
So again, that's another kind of discrimination, if you want, in this world. So, and it's very hard to change that. So it takes long. And speaking about another problem, and then we come closely to the end of this debate. We are a small country, Belgium. If you are a small country, you have to look outside. But we still see that cross-border investments are not on top of the bill, and this unique single market, it's still not reality. So what can we do in order to promote cross-border? I don't know, Celine, you're of course a federal organization, so you are Belgium mainly, I think. You don't invest
But
cross-border, you're not allowed.
to understand your question
What can we do
more
in order to have more cross-border investments?
you mean by Belgian investors into foreign countries, or you mean
Both.
by portfolio companies into?
From our point of view, from Belgians, business angels, VCs to invest abroad. But of course, if you look from abroad, it's the same. And now we see, for instance, that a lot of American venture capital funds based in London are investing in European/Belgian companies. So that's something that works. And sometimes I see it's very hard, mainly for business angels, to go abroad and to this cross-border investments. And as this, of course, is the World Business Angel Investment Forum, it's nice to say, okay, starting point is Belgium. Can we do something so that our investors are looking much more outside Belgium or even outside Europe instead of just saying we want to stay within our borders?
I think I can start on the angel level, because that's the first step for the first cross-border investment, I guess. And we all know that angels tend naturally to be more local players and invest locally. But we need and we are doing our best at BAE to build bridges, and we give access to deal flow. This is important. Most angel networks were established in the end of the 90s and the nillies, were regional ones. Mostly there was, like in our case, also support from the local government, because they understood that there was an issue in the market in the first phase. They said, okay, we promote angel networks to start creating investment in our region. So we are now stuck with a complete scheme in Europe of local networks in all countries, which tend to have this local focus. So my vision is that we should build a second layer. We don't need to make a new network, but on the basis of these networks, which do a lot of work to get their angels out of the market to adhere to the network, we have to build a second layer. And building on the trust of the reliable networks, which is the BAE Club, is the club of the 20 most performing angel networks throughout Europe, of which Ban Flanders is a member. We build a second layer with e-pitches. We are doing this together with the French BP Eurocracy platform. We build a second layer in which we say we organize sector-wise cross-border investment pitches. Last night, we had a medtech investment pitch where there were 6 companies from all over Europe pitching towards angels from, amongst others, my network, who are interested in medtech. So we tried to build a bridge of trust on the basis of the trustworthy networks, because going across the border for an angel is somehow exotic. There is another fiscal environment, there's another linguistic environment. And over the more, you're protected. If you invest in a Belgian company, you get a tax shelter because you're in Belgium as a Belgian resident. You are incentivized to invest in Belgium. So we need to get to some kind of European investor passport for angels, I guess, and also build the bridges to give access to our angels who are interested. And those who are not, we shouldn't impose them. But those who are interested to go sector-wise, we should allow them, and we should provide bridges to deal flow for them, which we are doing with this Business Angels Europe Club for the moment.
Jan, linked to that as well, you have the structure, the VCEU, the special European structure for a VC fund, which is not a big success.
No, you're right. You're right. And I think, I don't have the exact figures about cross-border investments. What I see, and that's more helicopter view on the market, especially for VC and late stage VC. The thing would be, if we have more stronger and bigger funds, then I think these portfolio companies can grow further within a Belgian context and can also expand internationally while staying longer here. I think this is happening in software, in tech. You have funds like Fortino or SmartFin. In life sciences, it's still a challenge, and I think Celine can confirm that. We have a couple of early stage life sciences funds, but then the scaling fund players, still have to be found in our neighboring countries, in Holland or in France. And that would be a good thing. For sure, you cannot force these things. You need to have teams who evolve with their companies, with their track records. But that's, I think, a more general remark that I can make.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do. We target investment fund whose management is not too far from Belgium. We usually ask them to have at least one person focusing on Belgium, and we ask a best effort to invest at least one or twice our investment in Belgium. And if they fail, then we do not consider their next fund, which is very punishing, which is a very bad signal for them. So they usually do a very good efforts to manage it.
You have too much power, Celine.
Thank you for that.
Dirk.
Yes, I think that Celine is very reasonable because in other countries sometimes it's just 50% of your investment must be in your fund. Look at France, there's quite some.
Yeah.
But I think, Dirk, that is not a good idea, Dirk, because you have to find a balance between these GPs looking for the best deals and your goal that you want to achieve, as Celine is saying, and trying to pull money to your country. If you go too far, 50%, then you risk frustrating your GPs. Huh?
But look, Jan, and I want to know Reginald's point of view. If you look a Frenchman from France who is investing in Belgium or the Netherlands, he can still have his fiscal advantages. That's true, Reginald. Huh? So, and that makes that a business angel from France can easily invest in Belgium, while a Belgian business angel is not going to invest in France because he loses the fiscal reductions.
Yeah, indeed.
But anyway, I think it's very important to acknowledge here that, as Reginald said in the beginning, so as we move on, the tickets, the needs of the companies in terms of capital will only go up, and it's going to get more and more difficult to get the tickets to follow. So that's why that cross-border collaboration of yours is very important, Rudy. Also because we need to make sure, and that's what we do, that we have the good mechanisms to facilitate the cross-border scaling, because you will not get investors with you if you are not able to demonstrate that you're capable of helping this company to scale. Let's just say Europe-wide. That's already a good start, because beyond that is always a bigger challenge. So the question is, how much of these initiatives do we need, and can we organize it in a European way?
Yeah. Well, that brings me to my last question. To all of you, you are appointed advisor to the Prime Minister. And they say, everything we discussed, what should we do? What do you want from the public sector in that field? Can be regulation, can be money. Just be creative, open-minded. What's your advice? Who starts?
Oh, I'm ready to start.
Yeah. That's your business, huh?
First of all, I think Celine touched upon it, is stability and vision. So if you're Prime Minister, you have to look at your budget and see what we can do. But if you make changes to especially to tax law, bear in mind what this does for the investor community, and try to develop a vision not only for this year's budget, but where you want to be as a country within 5 years. So that's really important. And so a stable regime, predictable regime that gives confidence to the investor community is really important. And then also I would say, why not go for a couple of strong sectors? So I think over the 20 or 30 last years, B2B software, we're strong in that in Belgium. Life sciences, we're strong in that. Why not build upon that? And we could go for a third specialization, energy transition. I mean, geopolitics is what it is, that is happening. But if we fast forward 10 years and then look back, this hopefully can also be a blip, and defense looks to all of us really, really the top priority. It's probably important. It should be more important than in the past. But energy transition is there. What is happening to the planet and climate challenges, they will not disappear. They are there, and so there's a huge opportunity, I think, as a country to develop an industry around that, and to develop expertise here that can later be exported around the world.
Thank you, Jan.
I found it really great what you just said, Jan, because when you look at everything, there's a lot of interest is going now into defense, but at the same time, everything that is climate is a bit going to the background. A lot of the founders that I speak to, they are disappointed because, well, we've been breaking a bit down or mitigating the effects of all the regulations in terms of sustainability. I mean, talk about the ASRS and so on. And then the EVP last week, they proposed that we should just ban all the rules on greenwashing, right? So when I read that, I think like, okay, this is really a slap in the face for all those entrepreneurs, those young people who care about the climate, who are inventing, brilliant technologies to care for their future world. And I think it's like, it's for me, it was unimaginable that a political party would say that. Let's just stop the rules about greenwashing. So let's start first to ask our government not to do that. And to say, no, we stand by everything that we have been doing. I think it's huge. The second thing is that what we need on a talk then European, is that we need to have all the countries aligned in the framework that they have on innovation, because there's so many standards, there's so many different organizations. I think if you will count, you will find more than 5,000. So why don't we structure that in a European way?
I think, Dirk, you're right. In fact, what happens, in my view, we did some overshooting with the Green Deal. Everything had to be green, and industry was no longer important. And now, in fact, you're pushing back and say, okay, we don't want rules on greenwashing anymore. And so we have to find a new kind of equilibrium, I think, between green and industry, green and innovation. But that's always a difficult thing to do. Reginald.
Well, very specific and very concrete, because it's not at the Prime Minister's desk, but it is at the desk of the Minister of Finance. Open up the Belgian tax shelter scheme for startups and scale-ups to companies. So there is a Belgian scheme for tax shelter, which is a very advantageous scheme compared to others.
Can you explain it in 1 minute?
Yes. So, for instance, if you can get a tax reduction on your personal income taxes up to 45% if you invest in a very small company. It can go to 30, 25%, but the top level is 45% of tax reduction within the fiscal year on your investment done in a small company. But it's only in the personal income tax, and a lot of angels do invest through their management companies, and also other companies might be interested to have such a tax shelter scheme for starters and scale-ups, because it does exist for the creative industry. So why not for the startup scene?
Yes.
And connected to that one, please, Minister, call back your tax administration, because I hear a lot of complaints of my angels, even going into procedures, because companies in which they have invested like 2 or 3 years ago, they get now problems because they are not considered being new companies. This morning, I had a call with an angel who has invested in a new established company, and the tax administration says, well, we think it's more or less a new company, but it was a previous company which somebody did already, and he started a new company. A new company is a new company, period. It's a tax shelter authenticated investment. So the administration is giving quite some interpretation to what the tax shelter scheme should be about. And I think there should be clarity at that point as well, as soon as possible.
I think all auditors, when they hear you, will say, this is not a Belgian problem. This is in every country that the tax authorities have to interpret, and they're not always looking at rules. Celine, you have the last word.
Yeah, thank you for that. I come back to my point about the stability of our investment strategy, especially as a long-term, patient public investor, and because we manage a lot of money. I think that's important not to switch every 6 months to keep private investors on board. We had a very good experience on the ecological transition investment opportunity. So we have a mandate to invest in energy transition, but also regenerative agriculture, sustainable chemistry, and there are a lot of entrepreneurs working on that. Young people, but with very good ideas. And I think that this innovation cluster is, for me, a big source of growth for the country, a bit like we did in biotechs. 10 years ago, we were really focusing on biotechs. Today, there is an amazing ecosystem in biotechs in Belgium, and we were starting to do the same. Now we have to balance this with an effort in defense, which I fully respect and I understand that. But I think we should not just get rid of all what we did in the ecological transition companies, because this stability is important too. And that's also a diversification of our innovation efforts.
That's a nice conclusion. I'm not going to summarize everything, but just a couple of points. Uncertainty, geopolitics will still be pending for the next years, we think. Secondly, public, I quoted for all of you, don't change so much, make that your rules are predictable, need clarity. I think that's an important message to all politicians in the whole world. Need clarity, don't change every week, every month, because investors cannot base on that. I take the point that venture capital becomes more and more difficult, which is not only the case in Belgium, but in the whole of Europe, and perhaps more difficult than private equity. Long term, we need long-term thinking because we think about impact, but long-term thinking might mean that we change the way that most of the venture capitals behave. So perhaps we might move to evergreens, we might move to family offices, which might become much more important. Next point is savings, that we should try to mobilize pension funds and all the savings that we have. We should find ways, fiscal ways. We should look at, of course, financial literacy, see how to explain people what's happening in the world. Finally, on AI, I think a good point is AI, it's a tool. If your data are not complete, AI is not a very big tool and a good tool, so we should really look at the data. And of course, I know this is not the end of the discussion. For those who followed us or not completely or partly, this discussion will be online for the next year on the World Business Angel Investment Forum, country Belgium. So you can hear Celine and Reginald and Jan and Dirk for the next year if you want anytime. And you can even ask them questions if you have their email, you can find it. And I thank, of course, my outstanding panel very, very much for the time you devoted. I know you're all very, very busy. Thanks to the audience, and see you perhaps next year at the World Business Angel Forum. Thank you to all of you. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Rudy.
It was a
Thank you.
pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.